Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well and having a wonderful day. Today I'm going to talk about my settings of my Nikon D7000. And I thought this would be a good video because there are some people that want to know what my settings are and how I take pictures, and so I will show you what I have for my settings in my camera. Okay, so go ahead and stay tuned and I will show you every little detail that I have in my camera for my settings. Alright guys? First and foremost, I would like to mention that all the settings that I have on my camera work for me. Now, they may be different for everyone else, but I just use these settings according to how I feel comfortable with my camera. They could switch every now and then, but everyone's settings are going to probably be different than mine. These just work the best for me. Please just understand that I'm not saying that my settings are perfect, nor do I think they're perfect, but I just want to show you guys what I shoot with just so you can understand how I use my camera. That's all. So just so you guys know, kind of a little disclaimer that I'm just showing you guys settings because I had a request from a subscriber that wanted to know what my settings are on my camera. Alright, let's go ahead and start this. So now I'm going to be showing you what my camera settings are in my Nikon D7000. And basically some of these settings can vary depending on your shooting style and how you like to use your camera as well. So let me go ahead and start with my basic settings right here. This is what's in camera on the camera mode. So right now I am using my memory card slot as an overflow. Now I like that because I like to take a lot of pictures and it can roll over to my next memory card. But say you want to shoot a wedding, or you have a gig to shoot a wedding, or something important, I would highly recommend you use your memory card as a backup, or two memory cards. One is primary and the other one is backup. So what it does is it mirrors your memory card over to the next memory card, so those photos that you are taking do not get lost. Because I've seen it happen, I've heard it happen, I've never actually had it happen to myself, but some people have it to where the memory card just stops working in the middle of a shoot, and next thing you know, guess what? You lose everything you took on that memory card. And if you're doing a job, and it could be really, really bad. So I highly recommend, if you are doing a job where you have the responsibility to take pictures, I highly recommend that you use your memory cards as one as a backup and one as your primary. So the next one I have is my image quality. I always shoot in RAW. Now, say I am doing a photo shoot or something like that, I would want to basically shoot my camera in RAW and JPEG. That way, I can give my customer or the person that I'm taking pictures of JPEGs and not the RAW files as sample photos. And I would just do JPEG basic in that case. You can also do JPEG normal or fine, but basic is going to be the very lowest JPEG you can give a person to start out with for sample photos. Typically, you don't want to really give anyone your raw files. They're yours. Those are your files. They have your metadata on them. JPEGs do have metadata as well, but that's why you want to do that. But I highly recommend, if anything, you just shoot in RAW. Alright, so let's go back. Next one is what my compression will be. I basically set my camera for optimal quality for JPEGs. I don't care. I want them to be as decompressed as possible. I don't like to have very compressed photos because what that does is it crams all the information into one file, and that just is not good when you're trying to look at an image as a JPEG. Like I said, I don't really shoot JPEG, so that right there is not very high priority for me. But my NAF recording is high. I want to shoot the highest I can get, so I'm shooting in 14-bit. Let's see, I want lossless compressed, so that means I won't lose any information. So basically I want the biggest file that I can get out of these raw images to have the most information possible. White balance, it just depends. On white balance, I typically like to shoot in a certain Kelvin. So 5560 is a nice daylight color. You could do 6500, which is custom, but I would recommend just shooting in a daylight. Cloudy is also nice. So you want to pick one. I would highly recommend cloudy or picking a Kelvin number. So you can also customize that as well. If you go into here, you can actually select what Kelvin you want to take a picture with, how warm, how cold you want the image, or how blue, how yellow, basically. And then you could just pick it. I just go 5560 because it's the best for editing with, I believe. Next, I have my picture control. I have mine set to vivid, but this is actually, I would say, a personal preference, because when you are shooting, you can play around with this. I would stick with, either neutral, standard, or vivid. You can shoot in monochrome, but then all your pictures are going to come out monochrome. Is this going to be... I would just stick with one of these. But neutral is very, it shows choose how new photos will be processed according to the type of scene of your creative intent. Each picture control can be fine-tuned for more precise control over such settings, contrast and saturation. Standard processing for a balanced effect. Neutral, minimal processing for a natural effect. And vivid, pictures are enhanced for a vivid photo print effect. So I like vivid because I can always tone it down. Because of how much information there is in an image, I can always tone down my colors. The problem with vivid that I've noticed on the D7000 is that it can blow out a little bit. So what you can do is you can go in here and then you can actually lower your saturation a little bit. See, I have mine bumped up actually, so I'm going to put it on 0. And there we go. That will actually make a nice image. So that's all really preference. I would test that out a bit to show what your pictures will look like. I would just test it out for your own benefit to see what you guys like the best with this. Manage picture control. I don't have anything set for that. Color space. Now, color space to me is very important. sRGB, you're actually going to have a very small color space on sRGB. Okay guys, so since we're on the subject, let's go ahead and talk about color space for a moment, because I feel that it's a very important subject that everyone should know, especially when you're picking up your camera or getting a new camera. Of course, I believe there are new settings in the newer cameras you can use. I'm not quite sure because I don't have a newer camera. I just have my awesome D7000 that I love, and these are the color spaces. Actually, there's only 2 on here that the camera use as color spaces, but here we go. So sRGB, if you notice this black triangle right here, shows how big that color gamut is. Now, if you're shooting in sRGB, you're only going to have this amount of colors available to you when you're shooting a picture. So everything will look, I'd say, duller. It won't have as much color. and it will be very limited. Whereas when you're shooting with Adobe RGB, which is what I chose and always shoot with, you actually get a much higher color gamut and are able to get those colors that you can't with the sRGB. So it's a very, very large color gamut compared, and you get all the deep blues, the deep reds, deep greens, yellows, colors that the other color gamut cannot see. So just a little thought for those of you who really want to get better pictures. If you are wondering why your colors might be dull, that would be a good reason right there. And this is great for editing as well. So if you're going to edit your pictures and post them or print them, Adobe RGB is going to have the best color gamut for that reason as well. So just, a little thought right there to show you guys why I shoot with Adobe RGB instead of sRGB. So if you don't want to edit your pictures very much, and choose like color and your saturation, and if you don't want, like, if you're using Lightroom or Adobe Photoshop, if you don't care how your images look when you edit them, I would choose sRGB. But I highly recommend using Adobe RGB because your color space is going to be huge. You're going to have a much larger gamut of color, which means you're going to have a lot more information in your photos, so you'll have more to play around with. So this is very important. I always use this. So if you don't have your camera set to Adobe RGB, I highly recommend you turn it to Adobe RGB. That way you'll get the most out of your camera. Okay, let's go to the next one. Activity lighting I have off. I have never really been fond of this setting because it plays around with the lighting too much. I like to adjust my light in my editing software. It just doesn't seem very appealing. I mean, you can bring out more light. So what the setting actually says is this. It says improves the level of detail in highlight and shadow areas under high contrast conditions. So I mean, you can try it out and see how you like it. If you like it, play around with it. Let's see. Long exposure noise reduction. I have mine turned off because if I have a long exposure, it tends to make the image softer and not as sharp. High ISO noise reduction. That also does the same thing. Makes your image soft. ISO sensitivity settings. Okay, let's see. This is kind of a fun feature. Now this camera, let's see, it goes up to a very high ISO. So when you turn your maximum settings up to, gosh darn, high, that can be really bad because it brings out so much noise. And basically what this is a automatic setting. So you're telling your camera in this, what do I want you to shoot the maximum ISO of? Like, how high should I go? You're telling it to go, well, for instance, I have mine set up to 400, or if I want it on auto, I have it to 1600, but my ISO sensitivity is 400. So this, see, it says choose ISO sensitivity. Choosing higher values allows faster shutter speeds to be used to achieve optimal exposure when given a subject at a given aperture, making higher values suited to taking pictures of moving subjects or shooting under low light. Okay, that's great, but when you have your camera set to 1600 ISO, it could be quite noisy, so you just have to be very careful. If you want to do an auto setting, I would do more of a 400. 1600 is just a little overkill. I mean, it could probably take it compared to the D90, but I would recommend a lower ISO. So I'm going to turn mine back off because I like how mine's set. but mine's set at 400. Next, I have multiple exposure off. My moving settings. Okay, movie settings. I have movie quality set to 1080p at 24 frames per second. I actually want to change that. Well, I guess that would be the highest setting. So yeah, 24 frames per second on this camera. I would prefer a 30 frames per second or even 60, but I'll get more into that later on in another video if you guys want that. As far as my microphone, it's auto, sensitivity. Now, I don't have any microphone plugged into this, so it doesn't really know what it's doing. But it's just telling me what memory card I want to use and my manual movie settings. I don't care about that right now because I'm not using it. Let's see. Interval timer shooting. Okay, so this is for taking pictures of a time lapse. I have this off. Time lapse are cool, but this is how you do it. This is how you set it up. It's a cool feature that this camera actually has, which is nice. I've actually never tried it with this camera. I think that'd be pretty cool to try, so maybe I could do a video on that sometime. We'll see. I have to learn how to do it first, though. Let's see what's next. Oops, I don't want to turn this on. Okay. Remote control mode. So I have it set to quick response mode because I want to do it immediately. Now this is all for time-lapse mode, basically, for shooting stars or anything in a dark light. But I have my mode set to quick response mode, and I'll show you the definition of what it says. Quick response remote. The shutter is released when you press the shutter release button on the remote control. Plain and simple, just like that. Let's see here. What is next? That's it for that. Now we get into the main, like the deeper settings. So let's go to autofocus. Alright, so I have my autofocus set to, or my AFC, which is continuous priority selection. So it says choose from release and focus. Okay, the shutter can be released even when the camera is not in focus. Focus. The shutter can be released when the camera is in focus. So I have mine set to focus. Next is AFS priority selection. Focus, same thing. Now this one is, let's see, choose release of focus. He has the same exact thing. Yep, same exact thing. It's just the way the cameras work, the way the camera works. Focus tracking with lock on. Okay, so that's if you were to have your camera in AF lock, which is down here. It does automatic focusing for you, or focus tracking. I haven't tried that very much, to be honest, but I have mine set to normal. AF point illumination. I really like this so that I can see where my autofocus point is. I think that's really important. I have mine turned on. Focus point wraparound is on as well. So what this is going to do, says choose whether focus point selection using the multi-selector wraps around from one edge of the display to the other. Alright, number of focus points. I have the max. You can choose 11, but I feel like choosing more is better. So you can choose your composition in your lens, in your viewfinder. Built-in AF Assist Illuminator. Choose whether the AF Assist Illuminator lights automatically as required to assist focus operation. Selecting off may prevent the camera from focusing when subject is dark. So this is just the little light in front of the camera, a little white little round circle in front of the camera that you have it's just telling you that you're going to turn it on when it's in a dark space, because this camera does have a hard time focusing in dark places. So I have mine on. Live view, movie, autofocus. Yes. So you can actually turn this to single servo AF, so that means it's only going to do a single focus. When you're shooting continuously, or not shooting continuously, but when you want to focus continuously, you want to do AFF, and that's full-time autofocus. It means it's constantly focusing no matter what. Alright, now we're in ISO sensitivity step value. So this one, all these settings are a little bit intense. I haven't read about them in a while, but you can, if you have the manual, it is best to read about these and actually configure your camera to how you want it. It's gosh, there's a lot of settings in this camera. ISO sensitivity step value, 1/3 step. Okay, so what does this mean? Choose the size of the increments for ISO sensitivity. Okay, so I have mine a 1/3 step. Half step I think is too much. No, 1/3 step's good. I have to read about this one in my manual, honestly. But I chose this one because I think it works the best. Alright, let's see what's next. EV steps for control, exposure control. 1/3 step, same thing. That basically is where it says choose the size of increments for shutter speed, aperture, exposure compensation, auto bracketing, and flash compensation. So that's important to me. So 1/3 is good. Easy exposure compensation I have off. Center weight area, I use the max. It says choose the size of the area given the most weight and center weighted metering. Regardless of the setting chosen, the size of the area used for non-CPU lenses is fixed at 8mm. So if you don't have a CPU lens, it will stay at 8mm. Whereas if you do have a CPU lens, that just means that there is a chip in your lens, you can adjust it to 13. Okay. Alright, let's go back. Fine-tune optimal exposure. What do I have set for this? An exposure compensation icon is not displayed when the exposure is altered from the default value. Continue. No, I don't care about that because I'm not using it. Shutter release button, AEL. It's up here. On the top, it's up here. And it's just choose whether exposure locks when the shutter release button is pressed halfway. No. Auto meter off delay. I have mine set to 6 seconds. Self timer delay 10 seconds. Number of shots. It's just a mode. So basically what you're telling the computer and the camera is to shoot a picture in 10 seconds when you do this. And then during that timer, so you have timer mode of course on the top of your camera, but in that time you're going to shoot one picture, and between the shots it's going to be 5 seconds. Next we're going to do monitor off delay. I actually need to change this to a longer time frame because mine keeps going off. So I'm setting mine to 5 minutes. Let's see. Remote on duration. You're telling the camera how long should I listen for the remote. And it's not really listening, but it's detecting an IR sensor. And you're basically telling it what to select the length of time the camera will wait for a signal from the remote control or remote before canceling remote control mode. See, and you're just telling the camera that I only want five minutes. Beeps. There are beeps on this camera. I like to hear the beep. I think it sounds cool. Pitch, now you can do low or high. Whatever you guys like. I have mine low. Viewfinder grid display. This I feel is important because the grid helps you line up your picture's horizon or any subject that you're working with. I think grids are very nice. I like them a lot because it gives me an idea where my composition is. I like to have my composition in my corners, on my lefts, my rights. It just makes it so you can see how you're supposed to use the rule of thirds. So that's important to me. ISO display and adjustment. Show ISO sensitivity. Yes. Show ISO easy. ISO show frame count. Yes. All that stuff's important to me. So yeah. Okay. Viewfinder. So now we're on the viewfinder display. Viewfinder warning display. Alright, this choose off to turn off the display of warnings in the viewfinder. No, I want to see warnings. Screen tips on. CL mode shooting speed. What is that? Choose the frame rate for continuous low speed shooting. Okay, yeah. So I chose 5 frames per second. Now max continuous release. Choose the maximum number of shots that can be taken in a single burst in continuous release mode. So I have mine set to 100. Can it go higher? No, I have the max. I'm like, okay, go ahead and take 100 shots. That's cool with me. File number sequence, of course. Information display, auto. What are my options? Yeah, auto. LCD illumination. I don't want it always on, so I have that off. Exposure delay mode. Let's see what this is now. Choose on to delay shutter release until about 1 second after the mirror is raised. This reduces the effect of vibration caused by raising the mirror. Okay, so that's a good setting to have if you're shooting during the night, like star photography or anything like that. You can set that mode on. That will help you have less shake from your mirror. So that's cool. I have that off because I don't need it right now. Flash warning, yes, you want to know when your flash is on, and you shouldn't be. MBD battery type, of course, you're going to use this. This is if you have a battery pack that does AA batteries. I have my stock battery in the camera. Battery order. Now this is if you have, okay, so I have a battery grip, and I like to set this up so then it uses my battery grip first and not my internal battery. If I use my internal battery, then I have to undo my battery grip and then take the battery out, and then I say, hey, use my battery pack first. That's important to me. Let's see, flash sync speed 1/250th a second, flash shutter speed 1/60th of a second. That can change depending on what you're shooting. Flash control for built-in flash. I have mine as a commander because I do have a different flash. Modeling flash on. Auto bracketing set. I have it to AE and flash. Bracketing order. And this is basically telling the camera how should I bracket your pictures. So mine is MTR, under, and over. So this is mid-range, under, and over. So then you can get your HDR shot. I don't technically use bracketing very much. because the colors in this camera are very nice. You almost don't need to make an HDR. HDRs are fun though, because of the different textures you can get out of a picture. My switch. What switch? What switch do I have? Choose whether the switch controls the LCD illuminator backlight or turns the information display on and off. Okay, well, I like my backlight on my LCD illuminator on top, so I keep that set to that. My OK button, shooting mode, no, don't want to reset anything. Assign FN button. Oh, the function button is nice, because then I like to actually set it to preview. What it's doing is it's showing me a preview of what my f-stop is. Those are controls. Assign preview buttons. You can actually assign buttons, which is nice. Spot meter, framing grid, food finder, virtual horizon. Oh, that's cool. Let's do that one. And slot empty release lock. Assign MBD 11 button. So that's that. Now let's go to the wrench. Brightness 1. I like to clean my image sensor whenever I turn my camera off and on. My video mode, I have to NTSC. That can change depending on what country you're in. I have my set to HDMI for my optimal output resolution. Flicker control set to 60. Oh yeah, I put an image comment in there. Where is it? Input comment. Yeah, you can. I didn't do it yet, but you can put your name on here, and it will show up in every single image. Not on the image, but in the metadata, which is nice. So you can put copyright. I don't know if you can put copyright. I don't think it has a special character, but you can at least put your name, which is good. I highly recommend doing that. Auto image rotation. Yep. See, copyright information on. Your virtual horizon. That's a cool thing to check out. I made my button that, which is nice. Non-CPU lens data, number 1. Okay, so this is... I'm naming my lenses, and it knows exactly what it is. I have my 50mm on there right now. It says lens number 1, and my focal length of 50mm, and my maximum aperture of f1.8. Okay, so autofocus fine tune. Now this is important when you're trying to get good focus out of your lens with this camera. This is important when you're trying to set the exact pinpoint of that lens. I can go over this in another video because it is kind of technical, but I think it's very important that you guys set up your lenses. You can do up to 12, I think. I didn't do anything for this lens because it didn't need it. But this is just fine-tuning your focus. Alright, retouch menu is important. Flash control. Here's my menu. Battery info. Yeah, guys, that's it. That's all my settings. Alright. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed that video. It was just something brief that I wanted to show you guys, just my settings. Everyone's settings will be different on their D7000, and you'll have to adjust them accordingly to how you want to shoot your images. But that's just what I have my camera set to, and it can be adjusted in different ways. Sorry, I'm a little tired because I got off work really late, and I actually work afternoon to night, and it just ends up being a long day. So bear with me for my tiredness, but I just wanted to give you guys a quick video on this subject because I know some of you are asking, what are your settings, and you know, how did you get those? How did you get some of those pictures? So I hope that helped you guys understand. And if you guys have any questions about the settings of the camera, I'll do my very best to answer those. The D7000 is kind of technical, but I think we can figure it out together. If there's something wrong, or if you guys have any concerns, yeah, just let me know. Send me a message in the comments below, and we'll figure it out. But there's a lot of settings that are really important to shooting a good picture with this camera. The camera is a great camera, but it does need some help along the way, as you might say. So, hope you're all doing well. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and please let me know if you have any questions. Okay, guys? You take care. Hope you're all doing great.